No, it's. See?
No, no sound now?
Yeah.
How about now? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the cord just got pulled out a little. We are still waiting on our special guest from Ireland. Hopefully, he's not having too many problems. Because without him, we really don't have much of a show. I guess I could sit here and review a few beers, but it'd be nice to have Ireland on the line. Adrian! Okay, bad joke. I'm still discovering new Irish breweries every day. Apparently, there are more craft breweries in Ireland than I really anticipated. Hop and Frog is in Ohio. That's not an Irish brewery.
Could be with us getting an update.
Oh. Windows. That explains everything.
He doesn't use Windows, he's a Mac user.
Oh.
I think he's on an iPad.
Oh. So, you mean they had to suck part of his soul out before he gets an update?
Uh-huh.
Go Linux. I updated. Took me 30 seconds. No. Aha! Adrian!
Howdy.
There you
are.
How
you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Guess I should probably get my beer now, huh?
Is this going to be a video thing as well as audio?
Well, yeah, we'll keep it up on YouTube, and then we'll extract the audio for the audio podcast.
Sure. So is it important to have something visual as well going on? Like, does it matter if I have like the bottles and stuff like that, or is that really kind of secondary?
Oh, it's kind of secondary. I mean, people who are actually watching it like to see the bottles, but
Sure.
It's not as important as making sure that the people can hear what it looks like, what it tastes like.
Yeah, cool. All right.
We're live at the moment.
And
we're live at the moment.
We're live. Yeah, well, yeah, but we haven't done the whole. Oh, yeah, we're live. We're live now, but I haven't actually started the show.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so
Let's see.
I don't have any beers in front of me at the moment.
Neither do I. I need to go get them.
Okay, that's cool. Cool, and I might want to try and improve the lighting here as well.
I'll take the thing out of that and see if it makes a difference.
Oh, definitely, yeah, that'll be cool. Bad. Closer.
All right. Well, I'm gonna run and grab my first beers.
Okie dokie.
I'll go and grab some.
I should.
Sure, yeah.
Anything particular?
No, surprise me.
Yeah.
Do you want something interesting in the background?
No.
Oh, that looks cool.
I know, yeah.
I'll stick it that way to get that and put it in bottles.
We need the light more, I think.
I can bring in the other light.
I think it's okay now.
Alrighty, and I've got more glasses than I know what to do with.
Oh yeah.
Alrighty. Finding the best angle.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of in shadow here, but you can hear okay, can you?
Oh yes, absolutely. Sounds
Cool.
great.
Let's see. Let's say it'll be okay. I'm always sitting in a different spot.
All right. Let's have a block 15 class.
It's them. I don't think they're invisible.
I know.
Do you want your coffee?
Good.
Yeah.
Drank my coffee, obviously.
Obviously, yeah, that's what I was asking.
You're trying to spread those.
Bottles in. Yeah, bottles in.
They don't list. McMenam's doesn't list their beers, do they?
They do it the local. But that's it, yeah.
Bottles on tap. Here we go. On tap.
Yeah.
Ales was whiskey. Oh my goodness. Some biscuits. I would really like to find a lager. Do you remember what the lager was called?
I'll get you.
I'll get you F. Ha 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 ha. It's not. Oh, there it is. And the Irish stout is just Irish era. E.
What have we got?
Yeah. Not Irie.
So,
No.
do you want these all in the same?
Round what?
Do you want all these together, or do you mind?
Oh.
Can I turn them out?
Oh God, no, just one.
Here. Oops. That's the expert stout, and here is the Foggy Dew. Foggy Dew. Foggy Dew. Foggy Dew. Okay. Alrighty.
So,
That's the lager.
How many do you think we're going to get through, and how long do you think we're going to be on for?
We could be on for exactly as long as we want to be on for. Literally, I mean, if we get through all our beers, we can get through all our beers. We can stop and talk about anything else that suits our fancy.
Yeah.
I do have some stuff in my show notes about some of the craft breweries that Che found, and one that I found this morning.
Cool.
And some general beer related stuff.
Absolutely. It's great. It's great. It's good to be talking about it, because it is. We went out over the last couple of days and just went to the off license and picked up just kind of one of these and one of these and one of these from all different places, just trying to represent as many places as possible. And so we got quite a few in the end. And we did a kind of a test run last night. So we've got a couple of them.
Oh, excellent.
That we got through already. Yeah.
Alrighty. Is everybody ready?
Yeah, cool.
Mr. Producer. All right. This is episode 42, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Swap.
Well, you won't be turned upside down.
All right.
Okie dokie. D is going to be here as well for some of it, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. We might have my other co-host drop in unexpectedly here or there if she feels like it.
Sure.
Well, hi guys. Welcome to Beery Good Entertainment, episode 42. We have some lovely special guests from Ireland. Hi, Adrian, and hi, Dee. How you doing?
It's a great pleasure to be joining you.
I don't remember hiring the leprechaun. Did we pay for the leprechaun?
No, that's a bonus. It depends, you know. I mean, I can do different. I can do sort of a upper class if you want, or I can be Dublin. I can be Kerry. I can be leprechaun.
Well, speak for county you're representing a beer from.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd actually be cool. Well, tell us a little bit about yourselves first, Adrian and Dee.
Let's see what you want to know. I mean, okay, well, I am an actor, a writer, and a comedian here at home, and also a beer enthusiast. We're also great whiskey drinkers, it has to be said, and we wouldn't say no to a bottle of wine either. But we've gone, you know, we've dipped our toe in the water with a lot of different whiskeys lately. We like an Irish whiskey, we like a Scotch as well. But when it comes to beers, we're very much kind of exploratory. We're always trying out new things.
Oh, wonderful! How about mixing your whiskey and your beer? Do you like the barrel aged whiskey beers?
I've tried them, but not very often. That's quite exotic. I mean, like right from the outset, I have to say that the variety that you have over there in terms of beer, we really don't have that much here, because the craft brewing is kind of new. It's only in the last 20 years or so that it's really taken off. So I've tasted a couple of, you know, whiskeys that were aged in bourbon barrels and stuff like that, but very rarely. You only see them popping up every now and again. They're sort of few and far between.
Do you have like do you have like a range of like alcohol that you would expect from your local beers? I mean, we have everything going from, you know, the teeny tiny 3% all the way up to, oh my God, if you drink this, you're probably going to poison yourself.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's probably, I would think of a kind of a session an easy drink as being around a 4.5%. And then from something like a real special one, seasonal drink or something like that, or maybe one of the stronger kind of Belgian ones, I'd expect maybe an 8%. I've seen up to 12 or 13%, but at 8 or 9% would be what I would consider to be very strong.
Oh wow! I mean,
Yeah.
11% is what I would consider like my top of the range. We've seen them bigger, but after that, it really gets so boozy for me that it's a little obnoxious in the nose.
That's the thing. It's difficult to get something that's around 8, 9, 10% without being too strong to drink. I mean, there's some Belgian beers that really, how they do it, I don't know, but they've got some magical formula where you could be drinking an 8% and you wouldn't even know it until you're finished. And they're just really tasty and really dangerous, but they're few and far between. Usually if you're drinking an 8%, you really know it.
Yeah. Well, let's start in with the beer if you like. Do you have anything
indeed.
at hand?
We do, and like I was saying, we actually decided to take a run at this last night, and because it was Patrick's Day, and what else are you gonna do except sit around drinking a few beers?
Who didn't take a run at drinking beer yesterday?
Yeah, but we're very proud of the job that we've done, because we went fishing around for stuff near and far and managed to find some really good things. Now, I'll tell you briefly what we looked at.
Now, so
okay, let's. This is the one we're gonna take off with today. We love this, and we've had it before, and it's really a kind of a local classic. It's Kinsale Brewery. Blacks of Kinsale is what they're called.
20 miles.
Yes. Kinsale is a small town that's very well known, tourist town that's big into sailing. It's just outside of Cork, and this brewery does two really, really great, really popular beers. One of them is the Kinsale Pale Ale, which you can get on tap in a few bars, and you can get it very, very widely in off licenses. This is probably their second most popular, but it is a better beer overall. It's a black IPA, and it's absolutely stunning. Really, really nice.
Wow! Now I know the bottle itself has red stripes, and the lettering is pretty chaotic. I'm not sure what text that is.
It's like an old school block printing letterpress type of, like a wanted poster with the letters all mixed up.
Is that a crow in the corner? It's got like paint splatter, and a nice little iconic crow in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on the side it says Black's Brewery escapes the mundane of the mass market, producing beers with passion, personality, and lots of hops. This beer ambushes your senses. It looks dark and heavy, but tastes light and hoppy, and I can vouch for that. Complex fruity flavors mixed with roasty, bitter chocolate and coffee tones. Living the dream since 2013. It's not actually... I thought they were around longer than that. Maybe they just started brewing this one in 2013, but it's great. It's 5%. And yeah.
So how much hops are you getting off that beer? Is it...
It's not hugely hoppy. It's like, as in, you can get ones that are like a real bang, like,
Yeah.
And I'd say the type of hops they use, the way there's some hops that are really strong flavored, but this one is the way I like it anyway. Nice balance of hops,
So if you guys closed your eyes, would you think IPA or would you think something darker?
I would think something darker. It's very malty. It doesn't, an IPA can be a very strong flavor, but I think the fact that it's a black IPA, whatever they've done to it, I'm not even 100% sure. But yeah, it's very malty, and it's definitely lighter than you would expect. It's got more of an ale-y kind of a flavor to it.
Oh wow. How about the texture? I mean, it's an IPA should be, you know, like really kind of a lightish kind of texture to it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether adding, you know, whatever dark malts they added to it changed that.
Well, we were drinking a lot of IPAs last night. And I think no, really. We had like 6 different ones and they were all IPAs. And this is very different to any of those. I think of IPAs as being I expect the flavor to really hit you, you know. So this is quite soft. It's quite fizzy, but then I would expect that. There is quite a lot of gas in it. But that's okay. That's not a surprise.
I do like seeing the foam is sticking a bit to the glass. That's very nice. I like to see that in an IPA.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like a hoppy ale more so, you know.
Well, I believe if I marked my bottle right, this is from McMenamin's. Yeah, I mean this is just one of their standard half growlers. I believe this is going to be their Foggy Dew Irish Lager.
Wow.
We'll see. Let's see if I picked the right one. And this is probably one of the better lagers that McMenamin's has produced for me. And I know Ireland, you know, is pretty known for the cheaper type of lagers. But this to me has like a lot more carbonation than I'm used to from mass produced lagers. It also has a lovely aroma to it. Like it reminds me a little of a German lager, but a little bit sharper.
Do you know what it is about it that's supposed to make it an Irish lager as opposed to?
Well, they say we brewed this light, crisp, malty lager especially for the St. Paddy's Day holiday. The maltiness actually gives me the hint because it is actually not very crisp. It's a bit softer than like a really crisp lager, and I would say the maltiness is what makes it more Irish than actually a traditional lager found here.
I think so, yeah, because I'm pretty sure that there isn't a kind of an Irish style lager, but if you're gonna to make it a maltier flavor, would definitely make it a bit more Irish in general, yeah.
They do say, and it's a little bit more technical. They're using Baird's Pilsen in here, in this, and as far as I know, that's not typical of lagers produced here. That would be more typical of a lager produced Europe. Probably Ireland. And it's super light. 5% to me is super light. 4%. It's really clean. It's lovely for drinking, especially with food. I mean, you could literally down this for thirst, and it would be really satisfying. And of course, we need to feed the producer.
Did you say is in that bottle? In like, is it?
That
looks like
is
2 pints.
That's 64. I believe that's 64 ounces. So it's a couple of pints, not a lot. Our full growlers are 128 ounces. There's actually their logo right there.
Wow, that's cool.
I do thoroughly enjoy lagers, as well as
Okay.
wheats, as well as wheat beers.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting because we drink a lot of kind of red ales, and maybe some kind of American style pale ales as well. But in general, we steer clear of lagers. There's something about it.
Well, there isn't a very much a kind of a craft lager thing going on. You know?
Yeah, there's not a great range of lagers in the craft market here.
It's like they're seen as the bad commercial, you know,
Mass produced.
So, you know, maybe that's why everyone goes towards the IPAs to do something that's really obviously different, you know, kind of way.
Yeah, people who are going to drink lager probably already know what they want. They're going to go for a Heineken or a Bud, so they wouldn't be going into the kind of craft brews in the first place. So anybody who wants something different, they're gonna steer away from lagers. Having said that, I've had some very good ones. They do tend to be very kind of clean and crisp. I'm a little bit afraid of them because I always think if it's more like a Pils, it's not going to suit me because the Pils is just too strong a flavor for me. It's when I've been in Germany, it's really difficult to get a really good beer because all they do is Pils. It's unbelievable. They just seem to be fanatical about Pils over there.
And it's funny you mentioned that because Pils is a Pilsner is something that I originally was incredibly afraid of because of that intense sharpness to it that kind of felt like it tore me up. But having said that, I have sampled a range of Pilsners from craft breweries here in the United States, and I have been very surprised. One of my ultimate favorite beers is actually a Pilsner, but it's a hazelnut Pilsner. Yeah, if you never thought of combining nuts with lager, Oakshire did it. It actually was amazing that the flavor of the nuts comes straight through. That's you taste hazelnut, not overwhelming hops.
Right, yeah, no. It sounds great. Is that made with like real hazelnuts as opposed to just pouring a hazelnut syrup into it for flavor?
Oh yes. We have so many hazelnut farms now here in Oregon that it has become quite an industry. I've noticed down the road from us, somebody actually took a grass farm. They bought a grass farm and stripped it and put in acres and acres of brand new baby hazelnut trees. And I'm really happy to see that. It's much better than grass seed. It's better for the environment. It's going to give them a lot. In 10 years, they're going to be making bank. And selling those hazelnuts to the brewing industry is really great for the economy.
Yeah. We've had the same kind of conversation about hops as well because you know there's one or two companies here that have started to grow hops, and you know they're just going to be cashing in because there's so many breweries just popping up, and if there was a local hops, they would take as much as you've got, but very few people are doing it. And it's definitely a great business idea because I don't know where the rest of them get their hops from, but presumably
they probably need a good climate as well, sunny and dry. So a lot of them probably wouldn't be suited to this climate anyway.
Yeah. It's a kind of a double-edged sword. I don't know with hops.
Hops are really fussy about their environment. There are a generous amount of hops being produced here in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. But even our climate is shifting. And I'd say because the climate in Ireland is shifting, it's becoming easier to grow hops there. Hops don't like hops, especially later on in the season. Hops hate rain. They get so many fungal diseases and root diseases that, you know, a late rain can really hurt your crop.
Right. That's probably not great then because, you know, even though it's getting a bit warmer over the last couple of years here, but it's not getting any drier, so it can still be it can still be pretty pissy. And it's extremely cold at the moment, and in the last week it's been bitterly cold. So the winters are getting colder, and we're getting more kind of storms and stuff like that and floods. So yeah, that's probably not going to go anywhere. A warning out there to anybody growing hops. I don't know, maybe they put them in polytunnels and they get away with it, you know?
Yeah, they might. How about have you ever actually had the opportunity to smell hops, like fresh hops?
Yeah.
I grew them.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Got a couple of big plants. It was more just to see what they look like, and you know, because they're kind of a mysterious thing, really. You know, all you'd ever see is a dried out bag of them. So but they were mad that the little shed I grew them against, like they just grew up and like triffids and took over all over the roof. It was amazing, like. But I always thought they were really big.
Yeah.
You know, when you see them in pictures, except they're just tiny things.
Yeah, they're surprisingly
small.
But yeah,
they died off after the first season, so I think that might explain that it's not a very good environment for them here.
But they do have the characteristic, you know, you can smell the beeriness from them.
Yeah, there's almost dust in them, like, isn't there?
Yeah, the lupulin dust is really what gives the you know, the IBU, the bitterness unit, its impact. And some of them you can tell straight off the vine if you rub them between your hands and you smell your hands. You know those hops are going to produce some of the biggest IPAs. You know, like a Magnum hop or an Amarillo hop. They have this lovely big huge hop scent to them. You know, and you can taste the beer before it's brewed.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I wondered about that because we were just doing a bit of research on hops in general. I mean, if you were brewing your own, would you have your own fresh hops that you put in?
Our brew supply places are really good with fresh hops, but it's really kind of a toss-up when you're using fresh hops versus processed little pellet hops. Sometimes you don't want the fresh hop because the fresh hop is either too messy or its really delicate flavors won't be preserved correctly in the beer. A lot of the times I like to use fresh hops as a dry hop instead of just throwing it in the boil. I like to put it in after the beer has fermented, and I want a lot of the aroma of the hop. Sometimes sometimes the processed pellet hops stand up better, and that's what I like to use.
Cool. And what's the difference between throwing them in or using them earlier and using them later? Like, why would you put it in towards the end of the process?
Okay, so when you're using hops in a boil, you can put them in early for the entire 60 minutes of the boil, and that will give you a lot of bitterness. Okay. That's where the actual bitterness comes from. The later you put it in the boil, the more aroma and flavor from the hop you get. So throw in one type of hop, and different hops have different flavor profiles. Some may be, all hops are good for bittering. All hops are good for bittering. They may have different amounts of lupulin in them, which is what gives it that bitterness. So you throw a little bit in, or you throw a lot in for 60 minutes, and that's how much bitterness you get. Throw them into like the last 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and you'll wind up getting more of a scent of that particular hop off it. And some modern hops actually have far different fruitiness and even a lemony characteristic. One of my favorites is Citra hops. They have a wonderful lemony, orangey type scent off them when you put them in later.
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of beers with a citra hop in it, and it does change it completely. It can be really beautiful, and I think it's kind of it's a characteristic of some European beers, especially that they're more inclined to have that fruity kind of a flavor to them. They like a lemony beer or a grapefruity beer. It's kind of big on the continent, more than it is here. You know, like we were saying earlier, we like our kind of malty, but definitely on the continent they like a lemony or a grapefruity beer.
I'd say a lot of the hops that you're importing are probably a lower bitterness. I mean, here in the Pacific Northwest, like all we find is IPAs. It is really hard to find a malty beer here.
Wow, really?
Yeah. One of my favorite malty beers is Hobgoblin. Can't get it. Can't get it at all.
That's British,
like,
isn't it?
Yeah, like a dark English.
Yeah. That's a good beer.
And if you even mention the term, ESB, extra special bitter, or a bitter beer, it's weird because people don't like it. You have to actually call it an amber for people to actually want to drink it here.
Yeah.
And it's technically the same thing.
Right. Yeah, that's a pity because we like the malty ones as well. And I think some of the ones that we like the most are Californian ones. Mm-hmm. It can be difficult enough to get a really good malt beer here as well. It definitely the IPA is the most popular one, and a kind of a red ale, but a light red ale would probably be second. But a lot of the time, you won't really taste any difference in that between a red ale and a blonde or a pale ale. It won't taste much different to a pale ale, you know.
Now your local breweries. I'm assuming that they have like tasting places added onto them. Can you walk in and just get a beer from the brewery? Do they have restaurants or?
Not really. Most of them are just businesses. They produce the beer and they send it out.
You go into the pub of Rising. The brewery is the pub in Rising.
Yeah, there's one place in
Franciscan the brewery is the
city.
Pub.
Yeah. There's one place in the city that's sprang up in the last 10 years called Rising Suns, and they do a lot of really interesting and really tasty beers. Now that's not really a kind of a national brand. You really have to go to one of their pubs and get it on draft. You can't get it in bottles. You can't get it in off licenses really, but they do have some really good stuff. And they got some, like the main place. You can go in, you can get pizza as well, so you can sit down and have your pizza and your beer.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most well-known and one of the oldest craft breweries in the country is Franciscan Well. They made probably the only craft beer in Cork for a really long time before anywhere else sprang up. And even the places outside of Cork, you couldn't get them very easily here. So it was the go-to place. And they have some classic beers. They've got some really, really good ones. They did do a deal a couple of years back where they got bought out. So now they're not technically independent, and some of their brews have actually suffered a bit because of that. But if you go to the Franciscan Well pub, the original place, you can still get the right flavor from the small batch. They're still brewing it on site, yeah. Whereas most of them are now brewed off-site somewhere else because they're all being canned and sent off to the international market. They got too popular, yeah.
Do you know?
But there's still some great ones.
Bought them?
I heard it was Coors, but I don't know if that's true.
I think that might be true. Yeah, it might have been Coors. Yeah, I mean they're still making them.
Yeah.
because they were award-winning at the time, but the brand is now what they're selling. They're not really selling the same beer. If you taste it now, it's not the same stuff at all. You have to just go back to the source if you want to taste the original beer.
Yeah,
it's a different. But they do have some great ones. And you can get them all over town. In general, there's very few places that you can go that you can just walk in and taste it. A lot of them don't have an actual.
Blacks have tastings.
What is it? Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
you have to book a kind of a tour to go and do a tasting down in their brewery. Apparently, we haven't tried it yet. I don't know, about 8 Degrees.
I don't think so.
8
They might
Degrees
have
are
tastings,
another
yeah.
brewery about 30 miles away, and they're like incredibly popular, and they've gotten. Will I get one?
Yeah.
There's they do just a really nice red ale, but then they have a special edition ones they come out with now and again as well, and we want to try that one. Like that one was smoking.
Yeah.
We haven't tried this yet, so it's all very exciting.
yeah. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is. It's very usual to have a restaurant attached to a brewery. That's usually, if you're going to open a brewery, you open a restaurant at the same time, because if you don't, people just aren't going to show up. And it's the actual personability of the breweries here that make it so attractive. We want to go in and we want to see the brewers working. We want to see the equipment. We want to be able to, take a tour of the equipment with people who know what they're talking about. We especially want the bartenders to know all about the beer, because we're going to question them very carefully. Oh,
That's
you used
amazing.
cucumber. What kind of cucumber did you use? How many pounds? Did you hand mash it? All these crazy questions. That's how intense we get about our craft beer.
It's interesting because we don't really have that kind of a culture here, and maybe it's just because it's not so easy to get around. Once there's breweries all over the country, but the roads are so bad and there's so many hills that it's just not so easy to get to them all. So these places are kind of isolated out in the middle of nowhere. And if I found out about a place that was up in Sligo and I really wanted to see it, it'd take me 6 hours to get there. It wouldn't be worth my while,
Holy
even though it doesn't seem too far. So there tend to be a lot of places that seem like you could quite easily visit them, but they're not really necessarily open to be visited. So that culture really isn't there, which is a shame, because it'd be nice. It'd be nice to have it, but really it's more like they get set up as a business that is trading on its ability to be competitive in the market, and then all these beers just appear in supermarkets and off licenses, and whoever's got the best variety, they win.
Do manage to kind of say somewhere like the Franciscan Well, they every Easter and whenever there's a long weekend, they'll have beer festivals, because they've got a really big beer garden, and they invite different brewers from all over the country to come and serve their beers. So that's an amazing of getting to try out all the beers, and then you can actually go and ask them all the questions, because the people that are representing them there will know everything. It's just usually if you're going into a bar, it's just somebody working behind a bar that kind of probably doesn't even know what you're asking for if you ask them for a certain beer half the time, kind of way. So that beer festivals is the one way to actually bring everyone into the same place, and they were doing that like years ago, and that was almost the only way people connecting and getting to try out all these different things. Whereas now there's kind of more commercial versions of beer conventions, almost like, which are kind of just like crazy drink fests. They're not quite so nice anymore. And it's as well. It's for a long time there were very few craft breweries around the country. So it something like a weekend beer fest was the only way that you would get to try more than 2 or 3 varieties. We'd have ones coming down from Dublin and Galway, and we'd be just amazed at the variety that we hadn't seen before. Now it's much more kind of commonplace. You see all these varieties in shops, but really it's comparatively recent that
that all that started to kind of flourish. And a lot of the beers that we've been drinking today and over the last couple of days, they only sprang up in the last 10 years, you know, and they're like, they've got a good business model, so they're doing well, but they have to be really, really competitive, and they have to come up with really good stuff. These guys, the ones that we're just about to show you, they're amazing.
Brown. Oh, brown ales. I love brown ales.
From one of them is Australian, the other one is Kiwi, and they came over and they set up shop in Mitchellstown, which is a town in North Cork, and the company is called, yes, that's Dee's hometown, and the company is called 8 Degrees. You can see it looks like an 8-ball on the bottle, but actually it's a reference to the latitude that where we are in the world, and a lot of their little they have these little puns about in the names of their beers about where they're from. So they've got a red ale that's called a sunburnt Irish red.
And the mountains next to the brewery are called the Knock Meal Downs, but they have a Knock Me Down porter.
Yeah.
So they're funny guys.
Clever, yeah.
And you know, you can see by the way it's written, and they were one of the first ones to really go out to kind of, I don't know, outside the city and start marketing their stuff to smaller pubs. Because I remember just being out to country one time and going, my God, they've got 8 Degrees here, you know? Which, like, it was, you know, if you went anywhere outside the city, a metropolis, you were never going to find a craft beer, you know? So they were one of the first guys, along with Franciscan Well, that actually started getting out there, you know?
And they're really good at producing some fun new seasonal beers that have like a really banging flavor. They can be difficult to take, but they do things from all over the world, and they do styles from all over the world, and they throw all kinds of stuff into them.
They had a mango and something or other one that we went to try somewhere. Oh, you weren't there, yeah, but so they do experimental summertime ones as well, you know, that are fruity but just short ones of them, you know.
Yeah. And their main range has, you know, it's got a red, it's got a pale ale, it's got a lager, it's got a stout, and an IPA. They've got quite a pretty wide range. And this is it's called Bandit, and it is a smoked brown ale, and this is the first time we've seen it, and we've never tried it before, so we're looking forward to it. Like I say,
I really like the. It says a smoked brown ale. It looks like there's actually smoke coming off the letters. That's pretty cool.
Yes, yeah, they've got great marketing. All the bottles look really, really cool. It's almost like they theme everything they do, which is really cool. So we are told 8 Degrees is an award-winning Irish craft brewery. They've actually won tons of awards, national awards, for, you know, the best beer in various categories. So let's see. This says a brown ale is one of our autumn favorites, but we couldn't resist adding smoked beechwood malt for some extra intrigue. This is a malt-driven beer packed with 2-row Irish malt, rye, wheat, dark crystal, and chocolate malt for real depth and complexity of flavor. Bandit just might be a runaway success.
Better be nice after
that. It sounds very dark and smoky, and looks like they put a lot into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of ingredients in there, that's for sure. So why don't we use your glass so we can see it? Hold it up there to the camera, hold the corner.
Is it dark? Is it smoky?
Well, it does. It looks like a good brown. It's developing a nice, you know, a nice head on it.
Yeah.
You've got a great pour. I love the way you pour beer.
Oh wow.
No. It is very dark in the. It looks very dark in the glass. I can't see through it. Can you see through it?
There's a vague little bit you can see through it, like a tiny hint of amber. You know what I mean? It's not as dark as a porter. Yeah, it's definitely just a
Just
dark
about,
brown ale. But it's gorgeous. It's sweet without being saccharine sweet, you know?
Oh, yeah. That's absolutely great.
Wow.
It's very sweet, actually.
It reminds me, you've Rogue over there, don't you?
We do.
Like there was there's
It's
Dead Guy
yeah.
ale, and then but they also had this one. It was hazelnut ale, and it's very like
Hazelnut,
that.
yeah.
Without the
Hazelnut brown ale. That's pretty common to see around here. Rogue is kind of a sore subject with a lot of craft brew drinkers here, because a lot of us don't consider Rogue to be, because they've gotten so big. Now they haven't been bought out, but they've gotten so big that a lot of their beers suffered. A lot, like a Dead Guy Ale doesn't, like, even 5 years ago, Dead Guy Ale tasted pretty good to me. It doesn't taste the same anymore. Their pumpkin beer kind of went flat, and then, you know, their hazelnut is okay. I still like their chocolate beer, but a lot of their other ones just taste so blah. I kind of,
yeah.
I really go for the small brewers. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose in a way you can only get so big before it starts to kind of dilute what you're about. I mean,
yeah,
you know, we've had a couple of Rogue beers over here for a good few years now, and I suppose we could expect that it's only the biggest ones that are going to make it over this far. You know, maybe we can
I don't think we can get them that much anymore.
That's true. Yeah. They've kind of faded. I mean, they're gone a little bit. You know, we get like Boston Lagers and Sierra Nevada and stuff like that.
I'm sometimes I'm such a terrible human being, because I still like Sam Adams. I still really like them. I actually like them better than Rogue. They're really good introductory. They're really good introductory beer. But I mean, I shouldn't turn around and say, you know, oh, big breweries suck, and then I go and try to find their beer. But I still like Sam Adams.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Well, we still drink Beamish and Murphy's, you know.
Yeah.
They're technically owned by Heineken now, so what can you do? They were pure Cork stout makers once, but now, you know, you're not buying something local as such anymore. You're supporting the manufacturer of it locally, but not really. Craft beer or anything. But.
Yeah, it's weird with the Beamish. Like there were two big brands of stout in Cork, Murphy's and Beamish, and Beamish was a very local drink. You wouldn't get it anywhere else, and it's extremely popular. And they were kind of in direct competition with each other. But obviously, Beamish was the smaller company, and they got bought out. I think, was it by Heineken or someone else?
Yeah.
By Heineken. And personally, I don't know about anybody else, but I just thought they were going to shut it down. I just thought it was going to disappear off the market because it was just, you know, competition. But it's still running, and they're still producing a pretty good beer. And there's some places in town that you can actually get a really, really nice pint of Beamish still. So they haven't actually ruined the brand. I think they probably just decided we might as well be making money out of this as well, you know. But they haven't changed it too much, which is lucky for us. But yeah, I drink a Murphy's the odd time as well. They're both good.
I actually, when we find, I don't think we can find Beamish here at all, can we?
No, we have Murphy's.
We do have Murphy's.
Really?
Yeah, we have Murphy's down. We have Murphy's down at our small hippie store down the street. Well, my next one is again from McMenamins, but it's one that Chase spent the entire night correcting the waiters and the waitresses on how to pronounce the name, because we've all been calling it Irie Stout. Apparently, it's Era.
Oh yes,
I can imagine why he'd be correcting him then. Good on you, Shane.
It's just as well you had an Irish guy there to put him straight, you know.
You'd like which stout? The Irish Stout? Era. It's Era. Oh, is that how you pronounce it? Yes.
Irish Jamaican, that's a totally different kind of stout. It's like I take the Irish stout, man.
Era export stout.
I like a pint of stout.
This is a full-bodied ale with a pronounced roast character. Various dark malts provide this frothy headed brew with a color as black as night. This beer was inspired by a future trip to Ireland and the Reckless Kelly song 7 Nights in Era.
Nice.
It uses Golding hops, which is pretty usual for a stout, and it's 6% ABV. But the IBUs are pretty low at 15. So, I mean, I don't usually expect a whole lot of bitterness from this beer. But yeah, it is dark. It has a big, thick head on it. And the roastiness comes right out at you. This is, it's, you know, if you held a handful of roasted grain in your hand and then you smelled the beer, you'd be smelling the same thing. It's got a good carbonation on it. It's also got what I usually think of as like a tang. But that's that back end of the roast coming along the edges of my tongue. It's not as thick as I usually think of for stout, but the carbonation and the roastiness really make up for that. I'm not actually sure how thick a texture should be before you think of it as an Irish stout. I mean, would you really expect a thickness from your stouts?
I've seen.
So thick. I don't know.
I've seen stouts.
It's only when it's on draft that you can really get it. That kind of lovely.
Yeah, and I've definitely had
creamy head thing going on, you know.
Beers that were called a stout, but I was surprised at how they were lacking that. You know, that thick texture that you can buy a thing that calls itself a stout but doesn't have that, and I'm not 100% sure what the is. Sometimes you get a porter and it looks pretty much and tastes pretty much the way a stout would, but just doesn't have that kind of heavy, that weight and creaminess. I think if it doesn't have that, a purist might say that it's not a proper stout, but I'm not really sure.
Here is stouts. We're pretty picky about how thick a stout needs to be a stout. And I've had friends that were so picky that if a stout wasn't as thick as they like, it was a drain pour for them, whether it tasted good or not, which I think is pretty ridiculous. It's beer. If it's not bad, then you drink it. So this, I mean, I'd like more thick texture from this, but I have to say that the roastiness off it is so wonderful that it holds up the flavor all on its own. I could easily think of myself sitting in a pub in Ireland drinking this.
There you go. That's the test. That's what
looking out across all the big green fields with all the free little leprechauns running around. Wait,
you have the green fields. Skellig Michael, you know, Luke Skywalker kind of hanging out. All that
oh my goodness! I would pay buckets to sit there and drink a beer.
Absolutely, yeah. We were only we drove past it quite recently. We were down that part of the country and we were driving along the Ocean Drive and we were able to look out and see the island. Yeah, we stopped off at a chocolate shop, but it wasn't open at the time. Otherwise, we could have been sitting drinking a hot chocolate and looking at it.
Oh man! And I know they turn the puffins. Are there really that many puffins on the island?
Well, when I was there, when you'd be coming back down the steps, you'd see them in under little scrubby bits of rock. They'd have this cave nest kind of inside the whatever heathery type stuff that's growing there. But yeah, it was amazing to see. I'd never seen a puffin before, so it was like they're gorgeous little creatures. Like.
There are a lot of other kinds of birds there. There's like huge colonies of birds on those islands.
The pointy one that's the iconic looking one. There's a load of gannets that live, like, the boat that brings you back in goes past that. And it's just birds that live there. You don't go on that island, but it's just a cacophony of screechy sounds when you go past the island. It's amazing. There's thousands of these birds, and it's practically white, their poo on that side. But that's facing out into the Atlantic, so you never see it unless a boat goes past. It looks just like a normal rock at the other side. It's amazing.
Yeah. So a gannet is what kind of what does a gannet look like? Is it
big seagulls?
They're like big seagulls, yeah.
Big seagulls.
Very noisier and bigger than a seagull.
So are they as irritating off the island? Do they leave the island and irritate people? Or
really... like when we were on the actual the kind of the famous island, that you'd see these things that they probably were the gannets because they were ginormous looking seagulls. Like they were like, oh my god, I'd say if they were hungry they'd try and eat you, that kind of way. And it would have maybe that's what happened to the monks of old.
Yeah. They got eaten by gannets.
Yeah. They seem peaceful enough. The seagulls are probably more dangerous around here, really, because they hang around in the cities. You don't get these big giant albatross type things coming into the cities, so that's okay,
Yeah. So I know we're talking about seasonal beers. What do you actually consider different seasonal beers? I mean, here we think of like stouts for winter and dark beers for winter. And then we'll go into really lighter wheats and stuff for summer, sours for summer.
Right.
We don't have that in like a sour now. What's a sour? Is that
a sour? Is a purposely soured beer with treated with usually lactobacillus, so it's actually tastes sour.
Wow,
no, there's nothing like that here.
Really?
Anyway, now there might, you might get the odd one because like the bar that would have a lot of craft beers on draft, they'd get in things from all over the place, but it'd only be guesting.
Yeah.
You might get it once ever and you never get it again, kind of way.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant for that kind of stuff. Like you'd have a lot of crispy, kind of citrusy, grapefruity things, or elderflower and something else, you know what I mean?
Or
that kind of fruity, fresh kind of stuff. But so there might have been one that was a sour.
There's been I've seen sours on draft, but I'm pretty sure they weren't Irish. I'm pretty sure.
Oh God, no, I'm not saying they're Irish.
Probably.
But that's something the Irish brewers now could look into, huh?
Yeah. Weird. I think that people traditionally here, they would drink their stout in the winter and they'd probably go for a cider in the summer. But also you just go for something lighter. A lager would probably be a summer drink,
Mm-hmm.
And a nice fruity IPA would be something I'd like. You know what I mean? The IPAs are so lovely and crisp and refreshing in summer, so that'd be. But yeah, it's true. Generally speaking, people do go for their ciders, and now there's a craft cider market as well, popping up all over the place. You used to only be able to get Bulmer's one cider only before. And that was it, which is still the dominant one, But now there's all sorts of cider makers locally as well that are doing great stuff.
There's a bottle for the Cotton Ball. We did actually drink a beer last night called Cotton Ball. Well, the name of the beer is Indian Summer, which is a reference to this kind of phenomenon that happens in Ireland where it might be cold all the way June, July, and August. But then suddenly in September, it gets warm and everyone's like, hey, thank God we got a summer. And we all run out and take our T-shirts off. And then suddenly it's winter again, So we have, there's a beer called Indian Summer that comes from a place called Cotton Ball. Now, this might be a surprise to Shay, but Cotton Ball would be a recognizable name to him because it's a pub up in the north side of Cork City that's very famous and very old. But just in the last, I'd say about maybe 6 or 7 years, they decided to start producing a craft beer, several craft beers themselves.
Yeah.
And so you can get those now in bottles. Is there one?
Cotton Ball?
And
Is that
Cotton Ball?
Is that name? It's in Cork. No, not at all.
No.
Mayfield, boy.
Mayfield. So yeah,
Mayfield.
I know Mayfield.
He says he knows Mayfield. That's
Yeah,
actually, I like that. It's an orange label, and it looks like there's little sheafs of wheat coming out the top. Cotton Ball Brewing Company in Cork from 1874. Is that how long they've been around? Or, I mean...
Yeah, the bar. I was just reading the history of it last night. It's quite interesting. Apparently, their great-grandfather, Humphrey Lynch, was an American Civil War veteran and cotton mill foreman. 3 wives later, Humphrey returned to his native Cork in 1874 to set up his own public house called Cotton Ball. And then 3 generations later, this is what they're doing. So the pub is still there, but now, of course, the young fellas decided, sure, what better thing to do when you brew your own beer as well.
Yeah.
There's better return, I'm sure, than
excellent choice.
Beer off.
And what did it taste like? Was it?
Well, that's an interesting
We've
question.
had it on draft mostly past few summers, and it was lovely and fresh. And then last night, I don't know whether it's the bottle that makes it sweet or what, but it had a really kind of sickly sweetness to it last night.
Yeah,
it
actually
could be
tasted...
the batch is different. I don't know, but
yeah,
or it could be just our palates got so adjusted to all the sharp hops we were drinking all night that then was just like.
We had a lot of IPAs, yeah, and it tasted really too sweet after that. I mean, you know, this the smoked brown is quite sweet, but it's sweet in a malty way. Yeah. The Cotton Ball, it was weird. It actually tasted like it had sugar in it. It was weird. It says crystal malt. The finest Irish lager malt, crystal malt, and ale yeast are the secret to her svelte body. Is the description that they give. So it does have a lot of sweetness in it. And we ended up thinking that this is the kind of drink that you'd probably be looking for during the summer. Something nice and sweet to drink outdoors. I think that's like it's an outdoor drink that you know would go well.
I'm not sure how Ireland bottles its beers. Occasionally you will get a brewer who is small enough they will naturally carbonate, putting sugar in to create carbonation with the remnants of the yeast. That could be contributing to the sweetness. I don't know if it's naturally carbonated or whether they force carbonate before they got it in the bottle. But that could contribute to that extra sweetness you're getting in the bottle.
Yeah. Because on draft, it tastes much nicer, you know, so
yeah.
It could be something to do with the bottling, all right. Yeah. Of the ones you did before, just show or?
Of something from the fridge.
All right, no.
I'll tell you about the other ones that.
Just before you do that, I'm gonna shout out to Burning Beard. He's cracking what a Sticky Hands tropical slam. Now, if it's the same Sticky Hands Burning Beard that I know, it came from Block 15. I don't know if that's the same Sticky Hands that you're drinking, but it's a great name. Cheers to your great beer.
Sticky Hands. Excellent. So we had last night. We also had this. It's Killarney Brewing Company. It's an IPA called Scarlet Pimpernel. It's a 6%. We had it before. We enjoyed it a lot. When we were trying it last night, we found it very, very hoppy. But that's another option that's on the table. And then we have a... We have a McGargles IPA, and this is one of the ones that I like because there's a picture of a guy on a bottle that kind of looks like me, which is
it has funny. You on the bottle. That's great. Really, actually, if you move over a little, just move over. No, you put the bottle back and move your face in there. Right there. Don't move.
Yep, that's
Got
on
it.
the beer.
There you go.
It's so true.
We can make that
these guys.
make that our photo of the week.
I'll see if I can set up a better one for you in a minute. But we love these guys. They're from, where are they from? Kildare. So they're from Kildare, which is kind of 3/4 of the way between Cork and Dublin. Everything that we're drinking now is from around the country. We had this thing called Kinnegar last night that is from Donegal.
Wait, Scraggy Bay, is that actually a place?
No, that's just a name.
Because you guys have some of the wildest names for places.
No, maybe not.
Scraggy Bay was the name of the beer. That was another IPA. Kinnegar is a very well-known brewery in terms of craft brews.
Smooth IPA.
Farmhouse. Oh, farmhouse beers. Oh, very nice.
But they're kind of high end. They kind of can go and stay there, and they're really, really dedicated to doing nice beers, kind of thing. They're not just mass producing them, you know.
Yeah. And we also had this last night. This is a crowd called Galway Bay, and the beer is called Full Sail, which I think is a reference to the fact that it's one of their stronger ones. Again, it's an IPA. It's a 5.8. It wouldn't knock your head off, but it's slightly stronger than average. And Galway Bay.
But it has a light flavour and very drinkable, we said.
Oh yes, this one was actually interesting because even though it's an IPA and it's quite strong alcohol wise, it was actually not that strong a flavor. It was a very drinkable beer. Yeah,
it's weird. We have an entire company called Full Sail Brewing.
Cool. Yeah. I'm not sure what it is about. This is just one of their beers, but they have several of them that are based on the names of different boats and like a maritime kind of theme going on.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So, this company called McGargles, that's kind of a funny name, was a...
See, okay, I can never tell whether it's a funny name or whether I'm just finding the name funny because I'm an American.
Ha! No, I think that's hilarious. McGargles is such a great name for a brewery. It's fantastic. They set up about 10 years ago. They launched in a really big way throughout the country. They obviously put a lot of money into it, and they came up with a range that's very broad. And we're big fans of a couple of their brews. It's interesting the way they market it. They each one of them has a name that sort of signifies that it was invented by a particular member of the family. So this one is called Francis's Big Bangin' IPA, and it's just a marketing ploy, but it's a good one. And this one is called Granny Mary's Red Ale. So it's like the grandmother invented this beer somehow.
Hey, there are some grannies out here who could tell you how to make beer.
Another good thing about these guys is they have a little 6-pack of 6 different beers. So you get this lovely little taster pack. So
that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, that's what I love. Yeah. I love mixed packs, and that's one of the reasons I like Sam Adams, because I can go and actually get a mixed pack. I love it when I see that from craft breweries.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
They have enough of them to do it. Most places only have 1 or 2.
Yeah, these guys are the only ones that I've seen doing that sampler style, which is really, really cool. It's great. So this is a red ale, and It's quite clear. It is very red, but it's not as dark as the brown.
It's definitely not an amber. It's definitely not an amber, and I can see through it.
Yes. Yeah. It's quite dark. It's got a caramelly kind of a look to it.
I can actually see myself in the glass. It's pretty cool. Hi, Linda.
It's breaking the fourth wall.
I love to do that. It's great.
It's quite tasty. I would say that after the last couple of ones that we've had, it's certainly not the strongest flavor, because you know we had the smoked brown already, and that was very strong. And this is quite a light flavor. I have a feeling that all of these are kind of session beers to a certain extent,
except for the Bangor IPA.
Except for the IPA, which is quite strong. That's a 7% to the IPA. This one is a 4.4, so it's actually relatively mild.
Now I've heard from a couple of YouTube beer news that I did run through that red ales actually don't sell very well in Ireland, and a lot of places stop making them after a while. Do you see breweries that, you know, will just, like, you go looking for red ale and it's just not there anymore?
It can be quite difficult to find, all right. Yeah.
Well, like Smithwick's, I suppose, would that have been considered a red ale?
Yeah.
Like there's kind of, and then Kilkenny is another one, but it's kind of more, I don't know how it's made, but you know, you get it on draft and it settles a bit like a stout. You know, as in you have to wait for the head and whatever to settle. But I think them in particular aren't very popular in Ireland. You either drink lager or you drink stout. This is kind of some weird hybrid that people don't bother with, you know. But I think in the craft arena, then, you know, there's all sorts of delicious, yummy ale concoctions you can make, you know what I mean, you're either making a stout or an IPA, you know, or a pale ale or a nice red ale, you know. So I think for the craft market, there's a bit more of it going on, but on a kind of a general kind of stuff in pubs, people don't really go for ales, like, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it's not
like
not really.
Smithwick's would have been the kind of the main one to make what would have been considered a red ale, I suppose. That was their kind of thing. And that would have been the only kind of brewery for years that would have produced something like that, and it wouldn't be that popular. It kind of just about survived, I'd say.
I think traditionally in the old days, before craft brewing came in, you either drank lager, stout, or cider. Those are the three options. Those are the three kind of taps you'd see in pubs. That's what it was. Now you would have the Smithwick's tap there as well, and that would have been the only red ale. But it wasn't. You know, it wasn't much. It wasn't a very interesting beer. So people.
And how's Granny? How did Granny do with her red ale? Is it good?
I think it tastes almost lagerish. Weirdly enough, it's very much like a pale ale, which is kind of what I expect a lot of the time. I think you know, a red ale, it's either going to be very malty or it's not, and if it's not, it's hard to tell where the color is coming from. This is very light. You can kind of see that once you take a couple of sips out of it, it's very translucent, and it's nice. I think I would drink a bottle of it probably fairly quickly. It doesn't have a very strong flavor.
Yeah, it doesn't have that sippable kind of quality where the flavor is so yummy you can sip it and enjoy it, whereas it's more drinkable, you know.
Yeah, red ales, I think I'm pretty picky about red ales. Like, I want them malty. I want the malt to be pretty prevalent in a red ale. If I see them, you know, actually pronouncing, oh, this is a hoppy red ale, I kind of go, because you're gonna focus so much on those IBUs. I'm not gonna get that, you know, that bit of malt sweetness that I like.
Mm.
The only one we've found that's got a lovely ale flavor is this one. This has to be one of our favorites at the moment.
At the moment, is one of our all-time favorites. Yeah.
Now, is that really pronounced? It's spelled Smiggy. Is that pronounced Smiggy or Smeggy?
Yeah.
Smiggy.
Smiggy.
Okay.
That's yeah. It's they call it an amber ale, and it says for beer goats who like great hop flavor with a rounded caramel malty finish, and it is very malty beer, and it is a really, really good beer. And
it's got such a brilliant balance of the two. You know, you've just got a nice bit of flavor of hops. I think it.
Yeah. And yeah,
I love the little cartoon goat on there. The little cartoon goat is so cute. Jack Cody's craft beer. Irish craft beer. Jack Cody's Irish craft beer. Very nice.
They're from Dundalk, so we're going all over the place here tonight. We literally we're covering as many counties as you can imagine. Virtually every county in Ireland has a brewery going on somewhere, you know. So we've had Kerry, Galway, Donegal, Kildare, we're Cork, and we're not finished yet. There's a couple more to go.
Well, I did find a brewery in Smigo. Is that the county? Where did I put it? Sligo. County Sligo.
County Sligo, yeah.
Sligo. See? American.
I can see how you would make that mistake. It's no problem. Yeah.
County Sligo actually had to go, the White Hag brewery had to go looking for a brewer because although they wanted to start a brewery, the guys had no idea how to make beer. So they actually went and hired a brewer, and their brewer is the type of brewer I would hire. Very adventurous. And went right back to the roots of Irish brewing. Obviously, hops were not around when the original beers started being brewed. So he started using heather in the beer.
Wow.
And that's turned out to be their
USP.
prime. That turned out to be their prime beer was not only heather in place of hops, but they also used heather as their yeast source. Their very first batch, they just started throwing stuff in like crazy, and then they extracted the yeast from the beer to use again in their other beers.
Wow.
That to me is a really amazing brew.
Oh. White Hag, I'm sure we've had that. But probably, again, only as guest beer in the local. Well,
yeah.
not so local, but
I think we have had that, all right. I know they've got a couple of different
not the
things.
heather one, but just some kind of a White Hag one. The name sounds familiar. Or I'm mixing up White Gypsy. There's White Gypsy as well.
There's a White Gypsy as well. Yeah.
But I must have a look out for that.
So
the Scottish
So the White Gypsy, are they like a real gypsy brewer? Do you guys understand that term?
No, White Gypsy would just be a name. It's just a funky name that makes it sound cool.
We have quite a few gypsy brewers running around here brewing at different.
Oh, really?
Because it is so cost intensive to start your own brewery that if you just want to make a couple of specialty items to make and sell, it is far cheaper to go to a major brewery and say, hey, you take a portion of the profits, I get to brew my beer.
Wow.
And there you go. Okay. And they go from brewery to brewery to brewery to do that.
Wow.
And they're called gypsy brewers.
They're gypsy brewers. They sell the beer under their own name, but the brewery that they brew it at gets a portion of the profits.
Wow. That's cool. I never heard of that.
Yeah.
No, we certainly, as far as I know, we don't really have that over here.
Well, I don't think you guys are, I don't think your market is probably big enough to inspire a gypsy system yet. I mean, traveling 6 hours to get to to get to a that's a long way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's the problem. So
I think I'm gonna send my producer off to grab me another beer.
Cool. We'll let's see. What have we got? Have we got another one here?
Will I bring in that?
Yeah, cool.
That into one glass there.
All right.
Will I bring in the stag bun or? Do you want to do a stout or something instead?
Oh, we'll try a stout. Yeah, that'd be cool.
They're not free or not.
That's all right. Yeah, we haven't had a stout yet, so we might as well that next.
And that's usually what I
Because
think of. That's usually what I think of when I think of Irish beer is stouts.
Yeah. And the craft brewers here, whatever their range is, they'll usually include a stout in it, but it's not necessarily always the most popular. As a matter of fact, it's rarely the most popular. Usually it's a pale ale, American style, or an IPA is the most popular. But the stouts, they always keep them on anyway. And some places do a really, really great one. I'd like to give an honorable mention to a brewery called Oh Brother, which I had a milk stout from there last week, and I didn't know what it was going to be like, but it was absolutely stunning. It was really amazing. It was ultra smooth. It was like a bitter, a British bitter style ale. It was so smooth. And it was a lovely flavor, but it was a really gentle flavor as well. It was nice and toasted, and it was almost like it wasn't trying to do anything. It was a really subtle flavor, and it was gorgeous. And they're called Oh Brother. So
don't know which one you want, but you can show them all anyway. Sure.
We have two stouts here, and you will recognize this. This is the 8 Degrees. Again, they're from Cork, Mitchelstown, and they've got that very kind of distinctive 8-ball style logo. And this is the Knock Me Down Porter, or the Knock Me Down Stout, which is a pun on Knock Meal Downs, which is the name of the mountains that the brewery sits at the base of the mountains. And
I love how they have the A and the L actually covered up.
They're actually there in the logo.
Yeah, they're in the logo, but they're covered up with what looks like 2 picks.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I never actually noticed that. Yeah.
Oh, look! It even has a best before. We have it has a best before date. A lot of sometimes here we have a marketing trick called live beer.
Right.
Yeah, they put live beer on the label.
Does that mean that it's best before or best after, or that it's really
they'll put a date. They'll put a date on there. I mean, beers tend to change. I'm sure you've noticed beers tend to change in flavor if they're left in the bottle for quite a while. So if you want a particular taste, like Stone does best before, and you're supposed to drink it before the date on the bottle. And literally the beer is dated by when you're supposed to drink it.
Yeah. Well,
we had an offie called the Gone Offie, it was called. So it was they had in-date beer as well, but they were quite happy to take all the out-of-date beer from all over the place as well. Oh. And we're quite happy to buy it and drink it at like $1.50 a bottle and less.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's gone now for some reason.
Yeah. It was a pity. Great.
So go ahead and...
So, this is And the Knock Me Down Stout.
Finally, a beer you can't see through.
Yeah, that is very dark.
It is. Yeah.
Very
They're
dark.
not messing with that one.
Very dark, very thick. Slightly off Whitehead from what I can see.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, yeah. Which is good too. That's a good sign. It looks creamy anyway. It's still quite fizzy, but it's got a really, really, really toasty flavor. Really toasty.
Very
So yeah,
nice.
I would consider that a good stout, even though it's not quite as smooth as you would expect from your standard stout. It's got the flavor that's exactly what you want from it.
Doesn't linger very long though, unfortunately.
No, it's not a very strong.
Their brown ale was, I would have preferred. Now it was just amazing. It lingered, the maltiness lingered for a lot longer. The brown one.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Would you consider an Irish stout to be toasty or like dry?
I would say toasty, but then with the big brands, I think there's a sort of a people drink it because it's traditional, but often it's lacking a good flavor. It doesn't have any resonance. It's just drinkable.
Yeah.
But I think the toasty flavor would be what I'd be going for. That kind of like nuttiness, maybe almost bordering on kind of chocolatey, without actually having chocolate in it, but just having that sense of chocolate about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
does the toasting? Well, I know. Dee, you said it doesn't really seem to stick around.
Yeah.
It's a good flavor, but yeah, it's definitely it's quite light actually. Again, it doesn't have that sort of dark, sort of creamy texture like we were talking about before.
It kind of encourages you to drink more rather than sip and thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they're definitely on the drinkable scale of breweries. You know, they make lovely, interesting things. The Bandit now is an amazing surprise. It's lovely, but like in the summer, I drink the Sunburnt Red Ale, and it's just it's got a little bit of flavor. It's not too hoppy, it doesn't have a lagery thing. It's just a really lovely, drinkable drink. But you know what I mean? It's like if I'm getting a really strong hoppy IPA, I sit around and savor it. If I'm on a session, I'm not really thinking about what I'm drinking. I just want something that's like cheap and cheerful. So yeah, I suppose they're kind of more in the most of their stuff's in the cheap and cheerful kind of range, like the McGargles. It's sort of similar that way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get something like the Kinnegars, or who else is a bit like that? Maybe Black's Black is a bit like that. They're kind of like, they're more expensive. You know, you're looking at like, these are like small bottles that are about £2 each, whereas something like this is big bottle, but it's about £4 each. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you're not going to go on a mighty session with certain expensive beers.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, it's worth mentioning that there used to be certainly a very strong sense of craft beer being almost like a luxury item, and these days a lot of the craft breweries have broadened out their market, but some of them are still very, very expensive. It's really almost unconscionably expensive. You couldn't get more than one or two of them, and you'd be just wondering where your money's gone. You know, you go to the pub.
Yeah. So this is in an offie. This is $3.75. So you're looking at nearly €4 for this. I'm not sure what that is in dollars. So that's the Kinnegar. So they're the kind of ones that put a lot of care, and it is really lovely beer. But if you're buying this in the pub, you're probably looking at $5.50 or $6, nearly $5.80, So you'd be looking at another €2 or whatever onto it again. So if you're going out to the pub, you'd want really
Yeah.
Let's
Want to
see,
love
well,
that.
actually, it's pretty. I mean, right now, €4 is about $5.
So how
And
much
Yes.
is a good beer over there? Like?
our like those size bottles can range from about 350 to all the way up to what $8 sometimes for a really big bourbon barrel. Now this this is our Black Butte Porter. And I don't know if you can actually see the price on that.
$70.
Yeah.
This comes out once a year. And it's always, it's always labeled 1 up. This is worth every penny we spend. Every penny. That is the amazing amount of taste you get from one bottle of beer. This is their birthday reserve, and they put a lot of effort. This is kind of like if you want to taste Christmas and your birthday and summer and winter all in one glass. This is where you're going to go to, because it's chocolate and it's summer fruits and it's the rich comfort of Christmas and the surprise of your birthday. It's wonderful, really wonderful. Usually you have to keep on the lookout for this because it goes pretty fast.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It looks
Crack
great.
it open there.
Are you having it?
No,
Keeping that for
no,
later.
I'm
We're
not going to have that
That's
one
okay.
today. This is the one I'm going to drink next.
We'll
I
get
mean,
it.
now literally, now when you go into a bottle shop here, you're not going to really find anything but the commercial stuff from Ireland. I have never seen a small craft brewery beer here, although I have requested it, and I will continue to keep requesting it. This is Breckenridge Brewery's Nitro Irish Stout, and the lovely little green label with a placard with a mountain and a castle and a couple of swords on it. Breckenridge is in Colorado, and Colorado does have quite a few good breweries, but Breckenridge is again becoming really big, really big.
Right. Do you know what the nitro means?
Nitro, actually, it really depends. Some nitro beers have a little widget inside with nitro.
Right.
Some just have the beer infused with the nitro. I'm not sure what I'm going to get.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah, we do that as well. Yeah,
It doesn't sound very inviting, though. You know what I mean? It just
Nitro Irish Stout.
chemical.
It's supposed to. Same as Guinness. It's supposed to be a really smooth. Nitro smooths out beer. It's basically just to make it really thick and just to make it really creamy on your tongue.
Actually, the gases that goes in when it's in draft form, probably.
Yes.
So,
yeah. I don't want to get this on my keyboard.
Is there a widget? So
I think so. Yeah.
it's not just a ball.
Usually I give this to my producer to pour.
Right.
Because I have to admit,
Are you afraid?
I'm a little scared of the widget.
I don't. No. It's
because once you pop it and the widget is
Whoa! Jeez.
Yeah, it's. Let's see. Oh well, it is thick. I can.
That's the way it should be.
I can see it thick, and of course, I need to share. Share. That. I didn't pour it very hard, but the head is really thick. Super thick. Super thick, and it is sticking. Stick. Now, It does classify itself as a dry Irish stout, but I'm getting a lot of toastiness off this. A lot. Oh, very super smooth. Really, that nitro really smooths it out, but it has the effect of kind of reducing the flavor. So I taste the toastiness in the back end, but it's coming back up along my tongue as bitter. It's hard to separate. It's hard to separate the flavors. It is dry, so I'm not getting what I really expected. It's good, but it tastes more bitter than I really expected. Not
right.
I'm actually not quite sure whether I like this or not. It is super smooth and it does have a toastiness to it, but the bitterness off it is a little off-putting.
To be honest, I think the smoothness is like a bonus that almost makes it allows you to forgive a lot of other things. If it's got that texture, that makes such a huge difference because it's something that you want, but you don't often get.
That's true, but when you put like a lovely dark chocolate malted grain into your mash, you want to taste it. Just covering it up with a nitro kind of allows the hop presence to be a little too prevalent sometimes, and then the nice roasty chocolatey character kind of hides. Not sure nitro was actually the best choice for this beer. It smells nice though.
Anyway, I don't think.
I
suppose you know what I mean. For if you
I would expect this beer. I would expect this beer got to us from Breckenridge pretty quick, and our bottle shop where we got it actually does turn over cans very quickly. So I'm expecting it got to me fresh. But the can itself, the can itself could have contributed to the slightly not nice character.
Oh yeah, but like over here, you get like draft Beamish and draft Murphy's and whatever Guinness, but then you get cans for takeaway done with the nitro widget thing as well, But it's never the same as the draft, you know what I mean? It's
exactly
just about it's the best thing you can get to kind of just for the whole aesthetic almost of the head, kind of way. But the flavor is never going to be the same as getting
it's a substitute for draft.
Out of egg version. So I'm just wondering, like you've had Murphy's over there in a pub on draft. So how does it compare that way? Do you like stout generally out of a tap? You know what I mean?
I prefer stout out of a tap.
Yeah. But the flavor.
I technically prefer it out of a barrel, but yeah, out of the tap is nice. Out of the tap is nice, and nitro is good for a lot of beers that have a good strong roast toast background. We do have a couple come out of McMenamins that nitro does smooth it out, but you can still taste that lovely chocolatey grain that it has, that roasty character, kind of like you toasted some bread and put that in there.
Yeah,
I think as stouts go, Beamish has a bit more of that going on.
Yeah.
How about you? Did you like the?
It's kind of standard. It's better than Guinness, but it's a big brewery beer. Like it's not craft.
I think Breckenridge has kind of gone over that hump where it's now a name, and it's not as big a thing to get the actual flavor of the beer anymore. Sorry, Breckenridge.
So it's going to be drinkable.
It's going to be drinkable. It's going to be drinkable. A lot of people are going to enjoy it, but people like me are going to go, I think I'll try something different next time.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like when you go to a pub here and it's not a dedicated crafty beer pub, the only thing that I want to drink there anyway is a stout. So I usually stick to drink stout when I go out. It's the one thing I can get on draft that's like, yay.
Yeah.
For years, I was getting kind of annoyed with pubs. Why don't you have a nice beer on tap? You know, I was like very cranky going into pubs and not having any choice. Nothing but Heineken and Carlsberg up in front of me. You know,
and
so
when
we had stout is my drink.
Yeah,
it's a bonus of this.
We had a major restaurant called Buffalo Wild Wings move into Corvallis. And you know, nothing goes better with chicken wings than beer. I was all for running down there and trying out, you know, what great beers they had, and went down there and they had 5 taps, 3 of them major producers. And I immediately went to the manager and I went, dude, you are in Corvallis with Portland to the north. I said, you need to fix this very quickly. Otherwise, you are going to go down within a month. They really responded to it because mine was not the only voice saying that. And as of last week, they now have 2 bars and I think it was over 75 different taps.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, they had to double. Wow. They have two racks of taps, 75 different beers. And I mean, you can still get your Budweiser, Coors, or whatever, but you got to get it in a bottle. You can't get it off the tap anymore. Yeah. Wow. They only serve the Budweiser and Coors and PBR in the tap or in the bottle or can. 75 taps of fresh craft beer. Now I'd now 99% of those are IPAs, but yeah, every once in a while they do come around with a decent amber or a stout or a brown. It's all right. But at least they were. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think that shows the difference, you know, between what is going on over here, which is like this sort of exciting explosion of different types of beers, and what you've got there, which is an established tradition of small breweries in some parts of the country where everybody knows about it and everybody's into it, or at least the majority of people are. Because over here, it's still considered a kind of a hipster thing or a young people's thing to a certain extent. You know, it's known about and it's mainstream, but it's still quite recent. And it's actually a minority of people who are still into it. You know, when you walk into a bar over here, the first thing you do is you check out the taps to see whether there's any craft brews on. And if there are, then you go, hey, great, there's something here that we can drink. But some places you walk in and there's no craft brews at all. And that's quite a lot of places. And that's in a town with quite a lot of pubs in it, you know. So it's still a thing that even though it's coming up very strongly, it's still only on the way up. It's not like an established part of the way people drink these days. Yeah. There's still a lot of, especially kind of younger generations, who just drink all the crap beers, and they never crap as in the bad beers. Yeah. Then they would never consider drinking something a little bit different. So it's not a thing that everybody's into, you know.
The price is a bit inhibitive, I suppose, for a lot of people.
If you want that's true. You know, craft beers cost money.
Yeah, and it's fair enough if they're really good. But you know, if you're a student going out drinking, you ain't going to be trying out craft beers. You know, you're still gonna just want to get your muck that you're used to getting.
Well, here, you know, we go into 7-Eleven as our local convenience store, and you know, here being a college town, you know, a guy walks in ahead of me, and I see him take out, you know, like I think it was like a 36 pack of 36 pack of Bush, and then he pulls out 2 more, and I'm like going, oh my god, it's a frat night for him. But then he turns around and he goes to where we're standing, and he takes out a craft beer, and I'm going, oh, craft beer lover has to buy for the frat house. Frat house get Bush. Huh. I'm getting a nice IPA for myself.
Yeah.
I must say, when we go to parties, we'll get maybe 3 really nice, you know, pricey craft beers, and then a little bit of muck to kind of finish off. When you're not sentient enough to even know what you're drinking anymore, you might as well just be drinking cheap shit.
That's true. Sometimes when you're at a party, you just want something in your hand.
If someone started robbing your beer, and it was that lovely bottle of something that you were just about to get to, and someone just robbed that from the fridge, you'd be like,
No, I mean, if now I haven't tried this. This is called Bourbon County. Goose Island that produces this beer.
Goose Island
was taken over by AB and Bev. AB and Bev is the how do I describe this without getting the show thrown off YouTube? The hoe of the Goose Island turned out to be the hoe of the craft beer community, selling out to AB and Bev. It was terrible, but the Bourbon County bottles still do turn out very nice beer, apparently. So these are still really expensive, which is really nice.
It looks great.
And I mean, the beers, each and every single one is hand signed, you know, for their year. This one's hand signed 2017, barrel aged, very nice. Meant to be like gift items.
Yeah.
I really do. I really do think that beers like that are still worth buying. They really are.
How much is that?
This was actually 27.
Oh, yeah. Holy crap!
But it was a present. It was a present.
Wow.
Worth my money for the person I love.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. There's some I have seen, you know, like 15 euros for one bottle of beer over here. It'd be about $20, I suppose. And they're gorgeous looking, and I'm sure they're stunning beers, but they wouldn't sell very much, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, having said that, we do have a couple of breweries that do grab the low end market. We have Caldera brews what they call lawnmower lager. Never goes over $6 for a whole 6-pack of beer, which is great, absolutely great, and it's a very nice lager. I mean, it's rich and it's grainy, and you know, it's fresh every time you drink it. It's really nice beer. $6 a 6-pack, but they don't waste money putting a whole lot of expensive stuff into this beer. It's a very basic lager.
Yeah.
Definitely meant for summertime drinking or taken to a frat party or whatever. Now, having said that, I really wish they would sell a 36-pack of it. They only sell 6-packs. It only comes in cans, which is nice, but I'd like a big box of it.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. It'd be good to have. Sometimes it'd be nice just to have them all sitting in the corner there, and you don't have to worry about when you run out, because there's always more.
Yeah. Sometimes the bottles, like the Bourbon County bottle and the Deschutes bottle, you know, these are actually really nice shelf items. You put these on your shelf and like they complement the decor of the room. It's really nice when it happens. Yeah. And you can put it up there as like an artistic piece, and then that artistic piece changes when you go get new, different bottles. The Game of Thrones beers, the Game of Thrones beer bottles are beautiful. Beautiful artwork on them. You stick them up on the shelf and you wait until Game of Thrones comes around, and then you watch an entire season of Game of Thrones all in one go, and you drink all the beer and you barely remember finishing.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I like the idea of having a spot in the room where you have your decorative bottle, and the decorative bottle changes every week, but it's always there in that one place. That'd be really cool.
And I always absolutely I love the term, but honey, it was on sale because it works for me.
Oh yeah, we're always on the lookout for deals here, you know, and sometimes you'd be looking for something, and when you find it, it's just remarkable, and you have to go out and buy loads of it, and you're never going to get it again.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So have you guys been hit with the the pumpkin beers yet?
No.
You're so lucky.
I've seen it advertised, but to be perfectly honest, I'm not that keen on pumpkin in any form, so I'm pretty sure that if I saw it, I wouldn't be interested in a beer, you know? It's not my thing. I mean, you know, you see like chocolate stout and you're going, whoa, chocolate stout? Oh, okay, I like both of those, so I'll give it a go. But pumpkin, I'm just not keen on, so when I see it in a beer, I'm not keen on trying it, to be honest. It's a bit like that with grapefruit. It's one of the reasons I don't really go for sours. Is not interested in grapefruit. And when I see grapefruit and beer together, I go, nah, I don't think so. I'll give it a skip. Even though it might be fabulous, but I don't. I've seen pumpkin beers, but I've never tried them.
Here, pumpkin is one of the most contentious ingredients every year around, starting before Halloween. We start seeing pumpkin beers come out, and some years you're all gung ho. Oh goodness, it's pumpkin season. Let's go. And like the next year, you've had so much pumpkin, you are sick to death going, no, don't even show me the bottle. I don't want to know it exists. I'm so done with pumpkin. Like, and you do that for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden, like the next year you go, seems like a good pumpkin year again.
And what is it about pumpkin that people suddenly want to throw it into beer? I mean, why not something else, you know? Why not like potato or something like that?
Actually, we do have sweet potato beers.
I would try that.
We have...
Like the pumpkin obviously has...
Yeah, we actually have a... Oh, sorry.
Thing. Like how, like when you say pumpkin beer, is pumpkin added to the beer, or are you using the pumpkin almost like the starchy... that the wheat or whatever barley would have had, you know what I mean?
No. It's added as what we call an adjunct. It's extra. It's not in place of the malt. It's actually a flavoring. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it does not. Sometimes you get a lot of pumpkin. Sometimes you get a little tiny bit of pumpkin and a whole lot of spice.
Oh, okay, so they're keen on spicing it up as well. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I could have problems with that, alright. I'm sure there was...
I'd be more interested in the spice than the pumpkin, yeah. It can go...
There was a seasonal beer in France... Oh, yeah, sure, introduce that, actually.
No, go
on. Well, I know there's a brewery in Florida that puts out a sweet potato beer. And that is one of the most amazing beers. It's really good. Like it's sweet and it's sugary. It's like you've bitten into a sweet potato casserole.
Wow.
Really nice.
I've got to try out a pumpkin one just to see what it's nice. I just can't imagine.
You've got to do it right here, though, are they? We'll have to go to the source of pumpkins.
Yeah. That's the thing. Pumpkins aren't a big thing here anyway, you know?
They are.
Sure, I'm not. Jack-o'-lanterns.
And that's only a relatively recent thing anyway, to even have a pumpkin for that.
Yeah.
In terms of
really?
eating them, probably not.
Oh yeah, people. You know, it's not a traditional thing at all here to say. You wouldn't see a pumpkin in a supermarket for 11 months of the year. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be rare.
Purely a Halloween decorative thing that they're selling them for. You know,
like cranberries or blueberries or something. It's not native, so we don't see them.
Well, they can be native. They just don't.
Yeah, it's just not a thing. Cherry beers, weirdly enough, we've seen a few of, and strawberry, and not because they're a big thing to us. But they come over from the continent, French and Belgian. They like their cherry beers and their strawberry beers, and that can be an interesting experience. They're incredibly sweet, and they really do taste like a dessert. They're almost like ice cream.
The quack one, I think, is.
Oh yeah,
it's quite a strong, bitter cherry beer. You know, some of them are actually really sort of zingy or something. You know.
There's one called Quack, which is spelled Q-W-A-K.
K-W-A-K.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, K-W-A-K. Look it up.
Probably because cherry, like the strawberry and cherry beers, are actually known as Kriek beers, K-R-I-E-K.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And they can be great. They tend to be very strong, and they're because they're quite specialist.
Yeah.
Only you wouldn't drink more than one. You just have it for the sake of it on a special occasion.
Yeah, we have Block 15. Block 15 down the street does a sour cherry stout. Really nice.
Ooh,
very small batch. You can only drink very small amount. Really nice. Really strong. 11 to 12% for everyone.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
They do tend to be very strong. I don't know why that is, but they always are. Yeah.
Cherries have a lot of sugar.
Right. Can we interest you in one of these?
O'Hara's? That's
O'Hara's.
O'Hara's.
This is a bit more on the touristy end of the scale. O'Hara's Irish Stout. It says craft brewed in Ireland on the top, which is kind of a way of saying they're trying to sell it to a very broad market, I think. But they are award winning, and this is actually a very tasty stout from a bottle. It's certainly playing up its Irishness. It's got all these kind of Celtic looking symbols on it that make it look more.
Plus the ingredients
more
are in about 10 languages at the back of the bottle.
Oh yeah. See, this is there you go. Just for all the people in Germany,
Italy,
and
Germany,
the
Spain.
United Arab Emirates, so they all understand what's in it as well.
Oh goodness.
So yeah, this is.
So is it O'Hara's Brewing, or is it brewed by a different? It's
in Carlow, anyway.
It's based in Carlow, and they, as far as I know, O'Hara's is the name of the actual brewery. Yeah, it's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not O'Hara's as a brand name that's brewed by someone else. These guys have a double stout as well, which is just a stronger, like a 6%, and they have a rye ale, I think, as well, and they have a pale ale. So they do have a couple, and they're all called O'Hara's. So they've got a range. So we decided to get a couple of stouts, and we've had one already. And I've had this before, and I do quite like it.
Oh, a Duvel glass. Fancy.
Yes, indeed.
Yep, that's dark, all right.
It is dark. It is very dark, actually. Yeah, that's the darkest thing we've had tonight, actually, I have to say. And it looks like it's got a bit of a fizz in it because of the head, but actually there's not a lot of bubbles in the glass. So it might actually be quite smooth. Ah, yeah. I like that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a very small. It's obviously a big outfit. It's a big company.
Oh yeah, if they're shipping to the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah. But I do think that's a nice flavor for a relatively, a big company's beer.
Roasty?
Quite drinkable.
Drinkable. It is quite roasty, yeah.
But it's very light, like it's.
Mm-hmm. It's a light flavor. It's not a heavy flavor. Again, it does have a slightly gassy kind of a texture to it. It's not smooth. It is very drinkable. It's not exactly chocolatey. It has more of a toasty flavor. It does have a bit of malt in it, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Even though their description is double or espresso or something mentioned.
Yeah.
Sort of bigging it up a bit.
It's got a bit of a coffee aftertaste to it. Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Coffee and beers.
Flavor dry espresso.
It's on the bottle it says traditional dry Irish stout with a robust roast flavor and a dry espresso-like finish.
Okay, so it is as advertised. That's pretty impressive. Sometimes it can be very hit or miss whether a beer actually lives up to what's, printed on the bottle.
Yeah. No, it definitely does have a bit of that going on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a nice one.
I'm gonna take the opportunity. I'm gonna take the opportunity to run to the ladies real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll do the same. What left?
Talk to people.
Is there anything else, or is that it?
No, there's the 9 White Deer as well, and there's the other stout, and there's a lager.
So I'll have to have a quick look. No, that's the Stag Rua, is it?
Yeah.
Early, you'd never know. We might manage. Cool. We've been on ages. I don't know how much longer we're going to be on for.
Here, I'll give these. The only glass I have left.
Yeah.
I have one glass left. It's the only glass I have.
The only pint glass you have.
That's my last glass.
Your last glass.
Oh, a dirty Guinness glass.
And I am going to this is actually a new brewery for me. Melvin Brewing is a new brewery for me. I have run out of things all Irish.
Interesting graphic.
This is actually it's called a honey blonde ale. I love Melvin's artistic artwork. This actually looks like a guy who's dressed as a bee, and he's pouring beer out of a honey hive. It says American Blonde. I know it's a honey blonde, and they use honey. It's 5%. So our award-winning honey ale starts as an American Blonde. We then add around 8 pounds of light clover honey per barrel. The honey adds a subtle sweetness and light honey nose. Honey is a big thing, especially out here in Oregon, because we have so much of it. We recently had the great fortune of an actual session meadery opening up and doing so well that they started brewing big enough to ship across the United States, which is really fantastic. So honey is a massive thing here.
Wow. Even in beer?
Even in beer. This this is lovely. It produces a clear golden blonde ale with a nice big white fluffy head on it. Lots of carbonation. I can see lots of carbonation in the glass. And I can smell honey off it.
Wow.
Blonde ales, like lagers, are supposed to be light. This one is very light. And I can taste the honey just barely, just as a bare, subtle sweetness through it. And then the hops come back to me, which makes this a really nice blonde ale. Very, very drinkable, but it's not, it actually has a generous amount of flavor through it. Tastes a bit grainy, a bit honey sweetness, a bit of hops, all really well balanced. I would definitely buy this again. This would make a really wonderful summer beer.
Yeah, it's nice to have something like that, and I would like to be able to try more beers with honey in them, but that's not a common thing over here at all.
Yeah. Now, how about? I mean, I know you have wine. How about mead? Do you drink mead?
No, that's not a thing either. Weirdly enough, except as a kind of a tourist thing in big bottles that you're not really sure whether it's made the right way or not. I've seen it, but I've never tasted it. So no, it's not a thing. It may whatever reputation it had in the medieval times or pagan times, it's now evaporated. It's not.
We had it at our friend's pagan wedding, and that was about it.
Did we?
Oh, really?
They passed around a bowl to the congregation. Well, whatever you call it. I don't know, pagan wedding, but everybody got to sip mead from a bowl as the kind of shared thing at their pagan wedding, which is lovely.
I know,
but again, I don't know how.
Most people describe mead as, you know, like a really thick, sweet, super thick, and a lot of people don't like it because of that. And Nectar Creek here in Oregon changed that forever. Like they were one of the very first on the West Coast to produce a mead in a can that you can drink like a beer. You can drink the whole thing all in one go in a huge range of flavors. They add ginger. They have wildflower mead. They have cranberry meads. They have some types of sour meads. It's, you know, it's really wonderful what they've done for that particular part of the industry.
Wow.
So they're using mead as like it's an alcohol made from honey as opposed to a distilled drink. You know what I mean? They've got stuff that's a beer.
Yeah, it's fermented like beer. Yes.
Yeah, because here you just have it in your head that okay, it's a spirit, not a.
Yeah, and that's
the way. So that's the only way I would imagine mead as a spirit distilled version of what you're talking about, probably, in a way. Made from honey, but then distilled, so it's more like a honey like whiskey almost, you know.
Oh,
yeah,
that sounds very.
Because then
Yeah.
So when we have mead, it's at that time it was like definitely a spirit. It was like a whiskey brandy type drink or whatever. I don't know what. But yeah, but that's interesting. Honey, having it as a drinkable drink.
Honey and beer is very prevalent. Sometimes we use it just as a type of fermentation base, not even for the flavor of the honey, but just to get a little bit more alcohol in there.
Wow.
Use sugar.
Yeah.
But I mean, presumably it's full of goodness as well, because I mean, honey's, has loads of natural antibiotic kind of things going on as well, so it can only be good for you through the winter months, having a stash of yummy mead going, you know.
You have to be careful where we get our honey from, though, because there's plenty of fake honey out there. There's so much fake honey, and if you get the fake honey, it does not make a good drink. Not at all.
Okay, yeah.
But here's the same, you know what I mean? You get like brand, something that sounds like an Irish honey, but then you look at the side of it and sourced in EU countries or something generic written on the side of it, that kind of way. It's like
and that's probably fake honey that came from China.
Yeah.
But just the fact that it's sourced in more than one EU country almost sounds kind of ew. Anyway, it's like, why can't we just have our own honeybees? So yeah, it's hard to find a little bit of honey for our porridge, not to mind putting it into beer. And
beer, it's kind of it is a bit of a precious resource, all right. Yeah. I've started to realize that recently. Really good honey is actually a really, really precious thing.
It might be another 10 or 20 years before the Irish growers are enlightened like the Oregon people are too. Hazelnut trees and have honeybees and make beer from all these things. Yay! Honey and hazelnut beer, there you go.
Sometimes we make beer from really weird stuff. Like, I love weird beers, like cilantro beers or...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oyster stouts are actually, it sounds weird, but they're actually really good. Literally made with oysters. I have made an oyster beer and drank it. And it was fantastic.
And I've heard of it, but I always thought it was just a metaphor for something else,
No, you actually take the oyster and you put it in when you boil the beer, you put the oyster and the shell into the beer.
Wow. Wow.
It
It's
turns
umami
out
flavor.
umami flavored. Actually, that'd be a great name for a beer. Umami.
Umami beer, yeah. Full of seaweed.
Full of seaweed.
Yeah, seaweed might be a good one to try.
I think it's
Is there seaweed beers?
I think there's probably a seaweed beer. You've probably heard of a seaweed beer.
I've tried algae beer.
Oh, really? I knew it.
It was very interesting. I'm waiting on pins and needles for the algae that tastes like bacon to hit the market. I cannot wait. I'd put that in a beer. And I've tried some bacon beers, but I've been disappointed by all of them. They didn't, there's a certain thing you expect from bacon, and somehow it just doesn't translate well into beer.
Again, I think it's a combination of things, I mean, we can all joke about how everything gets better with bacon, but does bacon and beer really mix? Is that really gonna work? The two of those flavors together? I don't think so. You can argue.
You've got a load of pork scratchings and put them in at the end.
I've done that. It wasn't.
Yeah,
it
wasn't
that doesn't
very, do. The way that's just then you get all this gunky,
oily, and the oil retains the head, and fat in beer just doesn't taste right, because beer is supposed to be chili and
smoke your pork scratchings in some vessel and imbue it into your malty thing before you put it in there.
But then you don't get the saltiness of the.
Either that or just drink your beer and eat bacon at the same time. That's
about the best solution I've come up with.
Mouthful of each.
We'll send you over ye olde bacon fries. They're probably the only things that are.
Can you? What's the weirdest thing you can imagine putting into beer?
Well, I mean, I would have thought that there was something a little bit odd about cherries and strawberries.
Nah, seriously, oysters now would be weird for me.
Yeah, oysters, that's wacky.
Fish generally, but that seems to be already done. So
yeah. Any kind of seafood, I think, is bound to be a little bit strange. Seaweed, algae, that's pretty weird, all right. Yeah.
Well, you realize that you guys probably have fish in every single beer you drink, because that's how they clarify the beer.
Yeah, that was the thing. I remember that stout in Cork was the only stout that vegans could drink back in the day, or vegetarians, because they didn't use fish finings or whatever it's called. So yeah, because I remember there used to be a load of punks in Cork, and they used to always be, no, Beamish is the only drink if you're a vegetarian that you can have. No, I don't know if it's the same anymore, but I kind of was like looking at them puzzled as a teenager going, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, fish in your beer? How does that happen? But yeah, there you go.
I drink a herring beer. I drink a herring beer.
Really?
Ooh.
I'd try it. I would try a herring beer.
Norway or Finnish herring. Who's that country that's famous for their ultra disgusting
tins of rotten
fermented herring?
Oh, that's a challenge I totally intend to take.
I'd love to try that stuff. Most definitely. I'd love to give it a go. I wish I could get it around here. I should buy some on the internet.
Get it on the internet. You can get anything on the internet. Except beer. Can't get beer on the internet. Well, you can get beer on the internet in certain places, but
there's so many things that I think there's a lot of stuff that you just couldn't trust. I mean, like nuts. You can imagine how nuts are going to go in beer, and they're not going to do anything weird. But if you put like cabbage or something into beer, it would just like explode. The two things would turn it into this kind of
sauerkraut beer,
farty mixture that you couldn't possibly drink. It would just destroy your
curry beer.
Curry beer, that would be
curry beer. I've tried a curry beer. It was nice.
Really?
Yes, it was.
chili beers.
Wow.
And chili beers. I've made chili beers. Chili beers are fantastic. Oh, when you're really hot and really hot in the middle of summer, you drink a chili beer, like it makes you feel cooler. It's wonderful.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It gets you sweating more, so you transpire and cool down. I think that's the principle.
I don't know. There's something. Yeah. I'd be.
I don't believe.
I'd resist that idea. If I was standing outside on a sunny day and somebody handed me a chili beer, I'd be going, nah, I don't think so. I'll take another one.
Yeah, you could, don't you?
Broccoli beer. I'm not sure how broccoli would go in beer. It'd be like cabbage. Although sauerkraut does sound very interesting. And I mean, there are any number of names you could play on for that.
Yeah, I started making sauerkraut at home.
And it's fermented anyway, really... so hey.
Yeah.
Maybe if you just leave sauerkraut, it'll turn into some kind of weirdy beer.
Well, it'll turn into vinegar.
It would definitely be possible to make a sauerkraut beer, all right, yeah.
I want to try an onion beer.
Ooh.
Better you than me. I wouldn't. No. Onion soup, maybe, but not beer.
I've had stouts with salt that were very nice.
Yeah, but you have caramel with salt.
Yeah. You can salted caramel is good. There was a. Did you probably heard of the beard beer?
Oh, Rogue beard beer.
Yeah.
By the time I tried it, it's
made out of beer.
It's made out of the yeast that was combed from the brewer's beard. The yeast was then regrown. So it's the same DNA of the brewer, the original brewer who combed it out of his beard. Same as, our Ninkasi down here sent yeast into space and made space beer.
Really?
Yeah, beer with yeast that was sent into space.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Oh, there we go.
Beard is good, yes.
Good. Bought the t-shirt. Yay. Nice. Beer made with beard yeast is better. Excellent.
Oh, is that Rogue? I see.
Yes, it's a Rogue. It's a Rogue beer. By the time we tried it, Rogue had become, really big, and the beer was a little underwhelming to me. But it was good. It was okay. It was all right. If it was free, I wouldn't turn it down.
Yeah, it's not going to taste any different anyway. But a regular beer in that sense, it's not going to taste like a beard,
No, it doesn't taste like a beard. No, it's just a
hairy
different
beer.
No, there's no hair in the. Ew! Oh, that'd be really horrible. So
that's some cheese.
We do.
That's one.
Pizza beer.
What's it? Oh, Dogfish Head. Here on the I think it was the West Coast, made a chicha beer. You guys know what chicha beer?
No.
A corn beer, but in Mexico they make it by chewing up the corn and spitting it out. It's literally spit beer. The enzymes break down the corn into the sugars, which are then produced in the beer. So everybody who drank the Dogfish Head chicha beer had Dogfish Head employees all over the company. They had people chewing up corn and spitting in cups and adding it to the beer.
Wow.
So, yeah. I would have tried it. If I had been there, I would have tried it. That is probably the most disgusting thing I could think of.
Yes. Here's, like, as an experiment, I would definitely try a blue cheese beer. I mean, we're big fans of blue cheese. And I think there's something about the flavor combination that might just work depending on how it's done.
Because you got a real tang off blue cheese.
Yeah. And it's also got a kind of
with a certain hop.
It's already alive, so it might be difficult to make without it turning off during the process.
It'd be very difficult. It's got its own. It's got its own
to it, so.
And different yeasts frequently don't play well together. So you may have to actually allow the blue cheese to ferment first completely and then add a different yeast in order to make the beer.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Or it'd have to be a higher alcohol content to stop the mold forming anyway, wouldn't it? Beer isn't high enough in alcohol.
Well, it's
you know what I mean? You put it near the end when it's higher in alcohol just for flavor. Would it kind of counteract the chances of it going moldy with the introduction of the moldy cheese, if you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the mold isn't necessarily bad if it's the flavor that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Oh no, but then
because you can always
mold floating on top of it because.
Oh no, you can pasteurize. You can pasteurize beer afterward to make sure to make sure that doesn't it doesn't keep forming. And there's potassium. I think it's potassium chloride to prevent it from continuing to attempt to ferment and everything.
On a more homebrew scale, like
and then you just force carb it for your carbonation, and boom, you have your beer.
Yeah, it'd be definitely worth a try.
Yeah,
you heard it here first.
A blue Irish beer.
I'm just trying. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I love that just like the flavor of that I'd like. Would be amazed if I saw it in a beer.
Now
I love basil.
Basil beer. Basil beer is wonderful. It's wonderful.
You had it. Oh my
yes,
God.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Coming over.
Yeah. Wow. You've got everything.
Very refreshing. Very refreshing. I love. There are certain types of IPAs I do love. I also love cinnamon. I have yet to produce anything drinkable with cinnamon in an IPA. I would give an award to a brewery that could produce a cinnamon IPA I could drink.
Wow.
I've begged every single brewery I know of, please just figure out how to make a batch of cinnamon IPA for me. I want the hops and I want the cinnamon flavor, and I just can't do it.
But it sounds like an obvious one.
It sounds obvious. I mean, I've tried everything from just putting cinnamon sticks in the IPA to trying those really hot candies.
They'd be too artificial flavored, I'd say, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and it all just kind of fizzles out. Either there's no cinnamon flavor or the cinnamon flavor turns
your honey beer, the guys that make the honey beer, get them to try it, because honey and cinnamon go really well together. Maybe that's something that a
cinnamon session mead that actually might work. Ooh, that sounds good. That actually sounds really good.
We're making notes. We're making notes. We've got one more for you.
Next week on Adrian's new brewery.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've got one more actual beer, not just an idea. If you want, if you'd like.
Yes, please.
We're getting down pretty much towards the bottom of the list now. We've tried a lot of things. This is a group called White Gypsy. I think we might have mentioned them.
Yeah, we mentioned that. I love, there's a horse on the bottle that sells it.
Yeah.
And they've got a brilliant
they've got
catchphrase. Only because it's a German
yeah.
style beer that they're working.
It's a German style beer. It's a Weiss beer, and they've got this this slogan on the side, which is written in German, which says "Das Auge sieht weit, der Verstand noch weiter," which we looked it up, and I understand that it means the eyes see far, but the mind sees farther. Which, yeah, is you can.
So you drink this beer and you mightn't see, but then internally you will travel on an astral plane.
Your mind will see farther.
So you drink this. So you drink this beer and you hear colors.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Sounds like one I'm totally up for.
Yeah.
So this is probably a good summer drinky beer, as they suggest. Mm-hmm.
So the description is a slight twist on the classic German wheat beer. The addition of rye malt gives a drier, lighter flavor profile and is very refreshing on warm summer days. Yes, I know we live in Ireland. Any warm summer days. And it's made in Tipperary. So we're going to a different county to one that we have been in before. Yes, indeed. And it's wheat beer, which makes me a little bit nervous because in general, wheat beers give me a bad headache in the morning. Oh, but I like the look of that, I have to say.
It's got a nice bit
of it looks very golden.
Yes. It looks very much like a Hoegaarden or something like that. Yeah, that is a nice color.
The first beers that ever really, before Irish craft brewing came along, the only thing you could find that was different around the city would have been, German beers. They would have started having Erdinger on tap. Another one called Schneiderweiss, which was quite nice because you could get a Cristal version instead of the cloudy, sort of headachy wheat beer. And things like Hoegaarden. I remember having my first Hoegaarden, this lovely Belgian white beer. And it was like they'd put the glass into the freezer, the big fat glasses. And then they'd fill it, so you had this lovely frozen icy stuff around the edges, and the cilantro flavor you're on about as well. There's a hint of that. So,
oh my god, I have to say it's actually amazing.
Wow,
it's really good.
Oh, I'm jealous now.
At that tangy, that kind of Hoegaarden-y.
Oh my god, it's so Hoegaarden, isn't it?
It's like a Hoegaarden. Oh. It's got a very vanilla kind of a smell before you drink it, and it's very refreshing.
Super fragrant,
very fragrant, very smooth as well.
We haven't tried this before, so it's kind of another new discovery for us tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, that wow! Is a discovery.
I normally wouldn't go out and get a wheat beer, but this is amazing. The smell, I don't know, it reminds me of something, but I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm saying vanilla, but I'm not sure if that's what it is or if it's something else. But it's very floral. And the taste is very floral as well. It's very sweet, but it's not oppressively sweet. And creamy. It's very creamy as well.
Yeah, it's not super horribly fizzy,
No,
grainy.
It's not fizzy at all.
Is it like a grainy type of vanilla? Have you ever taken wheat and actually chewed it?
Taken which? Wheat.
Like wheat.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay, because wheat and rye, sometimes the outer hulls can have a vanilla-like. They may have actually dry hopped with the hull of the grain.
Okay.
It's possible. That may be what you're tasting.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's strange how, I don't know enough about it to know what, wheat beer is, because most of it has wheat in it anyway, doesn't it? Generally. Wheat and
wheat beer goes wheat.
When you're saying something's a wheat beer and
the wheat is the fermentable sugar.
Yeah. So, but when someone's claiming it's a wheat beer, when somebody else is claiming it's an IPA or a pale ale, they're obviously doing more with the wheat or something. Mm-hmm. So it might be what you're saying. They're leaving
Yeah, what's the difference between a wheat beer in that sense and another kind?
A wheat beer definitely has like a light. It's a light wheat grain, and I heard you say rye. So they probably
say
put
there's
rye
rye
in
malt
there
as well.
to make it a little drier to cut through the sweetness.
Yeah, because usually wheat beer is way too sweet for my liking.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
as in you enjoy one of them, but then you're not going to be having more than one usually because it's just a bit overwhelming.
Another one of our breweries that got too big for its britches here is Widmer, and they used to produce a lovely, what I would describe as what you described. You know, that lovely wheat beer, rich and complex type of flavor to it, but wonderful to drink. And they've gotten way too big, and now the beer just tastes nothing like it used to. Absolutely nothing like it used to. Very disappointing. I may go back and try Hogarden again, though. We have plenty of that in the stores.
Again, it's something that on draft it's really special. Like you can get like 6 packs of Hogarden now in the offies, and you're like a bit like, yeah, it's nice, but it's not as special as a lovely draft. You know,
it's definitely different to anything else, though. It's a really
this
nice
the nearest
flavor.
to a Hogarden. You know what I mean in terms of flavor. It's just really light and fragrant.
But I've never tried it. Never. So that's probably
you never
something
tried Hogarden?
I'll go out and try it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Again, the what I would be used to in terms of a wheat beer flavor, like a Weiss beer when you get it in pubs. I was not expecting this. I was expecting something much more like a regular beer, but this has an extraordinary amount of like fruitiness to it. It's got a lot of extra character. So it's really
good balance.
It's a above and beyond.
Do you know what it is? I think you're tasting a little hint of banana.
I would not disagree with
that's
banana.
That's yeast. That's the yeast they use. That is so clearly German is.
And a specific type of yeast that they use that creates that.
Yes.
Yeah,
creates banana-like flavors.
Saying, something else, but I don't get it because
that's what I was trying to think of. It's just the smell.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
No, it's banana. Yeah, definitely.
But it's just a wisp of it, not a not a banana milkshake level.
Yeah.
And is that a specific type of yeast, or is it just what they do with it?
No, it's a specific type of yeast that they use. It may be the same yeast they use for all their beers. I don't know. It could be just a specific yeast for that particular beer.
It's gorgeous anyway, and I love banana. I would have banana with anything, so I think that's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that and ironically, I've tasted banana beer and it wasn't as good as this, and not even as banana-ish as this.
Usually, if I go for banana, I don't usually, but usually I'll go for a Belgian beer if I want banana flavors in my beer, because the Belgians do it right.
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I do like a Belgian beer.
Don't know beer, you've been to Belgium.
I'm always a little bit afraid of them. I think they're a little bit dangerous because they can be quite strong. But we actually do have a good connection to Belgian beers over here. Any bar that has a couple of good craft beers is probably also going to have a couple of Belgian beers as well, and they sell pretty well. Yeah. So,
I think I've actually run out of all my topics. I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up.
I'm very proud because we've drank 12 different types of beer.
This has been a really good episode with lots of different and I mean, for me, not seeing any Irish beers, I'm so happy that you managed to go out and get such a wonderful range of beers.
I have to say that the ones that we've picked, with very few exceptions, they're the kind of craft beers that are selling well on the market and are really the best ones over here at the moment. It's pretty much around the middle. We didn't go for anything that was extraordinary to us. We picked the ones that were already known to us and that we know the breweries. Even if we hadn't tasted the beers before, we'd recognize them from the shelves. So these are all popular craft brewers that have been around for a couple of years here. And I definitely, whatever about the individual beers that we picked, I would definitely recommend any of these breweries for people who are who are listening to this, who are local, you know.
And if you're in America and you want to see more any Irish beers, start yelling. Start at your bottle shop. Tell them there is not enough Ireland beer here. And they will start yelling at the distribution system, and eventually the message will get through, but only if we complain and have tantrums that are loud enough. Adrian, where in the world can we find you for all the wonderful things you do, your acting, your life?
I am all right. I am in Cork. Cork in Ireland, boy. So yeah, people can find me here. In the south of Ireland, and I do an improv show in a pub called the Roundy every Tuesday night.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know before we go?
Well, I think that it's also worth mentioning that we are big whiskey fans. And we can mention this, which is it's okay. Just take the bottle.
No, just look at the drinks cabinet.
This is our drink cabinet. It is mostly whiskey. It has to be said. So if you're not if you're not you're not a beer drinker and you want to drink
I think I write tea as well. I'm sure he had a book on that.
Yay!
The one single bottle I ever found.
We love this stuff.
Writer's tears. We love you. We love you.
Yeah.
We need more in the United States.
Superb. And we like the odd scotch as well.
Yeah, we're very picky about our scotch. We did a tasting one night, and I never liked scotch when I tried it before. But then we did a tasting in a bar nearby. It was what was it? Some poet guy was Burns night or something. Robbie Burns night. But anyway, they put up. It was like a little. You paid for the whiskey, but you could then, see if you could guess which area of Scotland it was from. And I was like, I didn't even know. I knew there was really peaty whiskies from the island. Then. But okay, and then there's Highland. But then there was this place I never knew called Speyside, which is kind of basically in between the two, which we have now discovered is our whiskey. So, but you can get very few of them here. They're not as popular as the other ones. But yeah, so there's Knockandoo and Cardew and all these ones that are just gorgeous. They're slightly smoky and not so peaty and yummy. So yeah, we have our treaty whiskies that we'll only have 2 shots of a night or something. Then we have our Powers, which is like our go-to session whiskey, which is yummo. We used to drink Jameson all the time before, and now not so keen on Jameson. Gone off it. And Powers, we just drink with water. You see, we used to drink Jameson with ice and ginger ale. Yeah. Now we just put a splash of water in, and Powers is so mellow and lovely for that, whereas Jameson is a little bit on the sharp side. So anyway,
that's it.
Yeah, we have beginning distilleries here, and their alcohol is a lot better than the major stuff we have. Very nice.
Really?
Very nice. Craft distilleries are so the way to go. That was so nice.
The big thing here at the moment is gin distilleries. There's a lot of distilleries that are wanting to start up, but of course whiskey takes a little while to get to its maturity. So in the meantime, a lot of them are making gin. So the gin is a big thing anyway at the moment here. I don't know. I think it started in Europe maybe because my brother was living in Madrid and he was saying there was gin bars dedicated to nothing but gin from all over the world. I was there a few years ago, so I'm sure that frenzy has spread to here. But
so your bathtub market is doing very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But their marketing it is very high end, so.
So can we find you on Facebook or Twitter?
Yeah, well, I don't exactly have a kind of a presence in a business capacity. People can look me up, all right, yeah, Snatch Comedy Improv has a web presence, a Facebook page. I just realized that I don't think I've ever really had a conversation with an American before about my improv group. There's always been a slight question in people's minds about what people would think if we ever had a conversation with an American. But yes, the name of the group is Snatch Comedy.
Snatch Comedy.
And that does not mean the same thing here that it means there.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, we do actually
for improv, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
So look for Snatch Improv Comedy.
Yes.
Excellent. I'm Sorcerer Zero, and you can find me basically anywhere. You can type in S0RCERESS0. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Google+. I'm on Amazon. I write. I even produce my own audiobooks. And you can look for my next book, Hunchback, coming out very soon. Well, guys, it's been a great, wonderful episode number 42, all about Ireland and Irish beers. And hopefully we can get more Irish beers over here in the United States. If you want more, go ahead and look for them, shop for them, tantrum for them, and have fun drinking all kinds of craft beer. You guys have a great night and have a great beer.